Hjaalmarch. This icy swamp in Skyrim is an alchemist's paradise, full of all sorts of interesting and useful ingredients that can be hard to acquire otherwise, especially if your chosen player home doesn't include a garden. But what does the future have in store for this hold? Let's find out. How yin's doing? I'm Ian, and this is my theory about what happens to Morthal and the hold of Hjaalmarch after the events of Skyrim. Let's get into it. First and foremost, let's go over the geography and the events that happen within the hold of Hjaalmarch and its capital city of Morthal during the events of Skyrim to see where we're starting off from. The hold of Hjaalmarch is located south of the City of Solitude and north of Rohan, Whiterun. Along its eastern and southern borders with the Pale and Whiterun are vast mountains. Meanwhile, along its western border, the Karth River acts as the dividing line between it and the other holds. Meanwhile, directly to the north, there is a small section of oceanic access to the Sea of Ghosts. While near the border regions may contradict this at times due to the growing mountains that act as a dividing line between this hold and the rest of Skyrim, this particular hold of Skyrim consists almost exclusively uninhabited swampland, with several long-forgotten Nordic tombs acting as decent landmarkers as you traverse this region. This hold of Skyrim is so sparsely populated that there's only two places with a permanent population if we ignore bandit camps: the capital city of Morthal, and a small mining settlement directly east of it called Stone Hills. The settlement of Stone Hills is an extremely unimportant and uninteresting locale in Skyrim. In fact, it is so uninteresting that there's no noteworthy quests associated with this locale, and just to hammer the point even further, I have several hundred hours in this game, and I didn't even know this place existed before doing research for this video. The only interesting thing I could find about this place while doing research for this video was that it's the location where Sorli the Builder lives. She is the individual who replaces the current Jarl of the land if you decide to side with the Stormcloaks. She is the current leader of the Stone Hill settlement, and if she becomes Jarl, she'll make the Argonian miner there become her housecarl. On the subject of the Jarl of Morthal, the current one at the start of the game is Jarl Ingrod Ravencrone. This elderly woman supposedly has mystic visions. This leads to a degree of distrust between her and the local populace, since most Nords in Skyrim have little trust in anything arcane or mystical in nature. Interestingly, if you manage to complete the quest Laid to Rest before you get around to doing the diplomatic immunity quest in the main story, you can use her to distract the guards instead of needing to give away your Colovian brandy to a drunkard. On the subject of Laid to Rest, it is easily the most interesting and noteworthy quest in the entire region. In fact, if we ignore Radiant quests and quests that involve someone outside of the hold telling you to go inside the hold to get something, this is the only quest in the entire hold that actually has a dungeon. In this questline, you investigate a house fire to discover vampires are secretly using the town as a source for blood, and subsequently eradicate the vampire problem. I suspect that even if we don't bother doing this quest, someone would uncover the vampires and wipe them out at some point, such as the Vigilance of Stendar or the Dawn Guard, but I suspect that if we do it, the casualty rate will be much lower. But other than that, there's only two reasons you're realistically going to set foot in this region whatsoever. The first is when someone from outside of the region, it requires you to get something inside the region, such as when the Greybeards go to send you to collect a horn. But aside from that, the only reason I can fathom you wanting to set foot in this hold is because you decided to use Winstead Manor as your player home. This is one of the 3 locales in the game added in the Hearthfire DLC where you can build a mansion in, and has the unique feature of allowing you to build a fishery, allowing you easy access to all sorts of alchemic ingredients that would otherwise be quite tedious to acquire, such as riverbeds. So where does this leave the hold of Hjaalmarch? Well, it's a sparsely populated swamp that, if our homestead is any indication, has great potential for aquaculture in the form of fisheries and fishing. And with many individuals losing their homes due to the Civil War and the Dragon Crisis, I suspect many of them are going to start looking at this sparsely inhabited swampland and think that they might be able to start something new here. After all, if you're smart enough to stay out of the ancient tombs and vampire-infested caves of the region, the only real danger you'll have to face as you explore these marshlands are the occasional mud crab and giant spider. And while it is possible for these creatures to overwhelm you with sheer numbers, as long as you're not traveling alone, this should be a non-issue. As a result, I suspect that after the events of the game, there will be a sudden surge of individuals who were displaced by the dragons and Civil War trying to set up fishing villages throughout the marshland. And how well this pans out will likely depend on who the Jarl is after the game's conclusion. Sorli the Builder seems somewhat ambitious, saying Hjaalmarch isn't much, but it's a good start, and then expresses hope that she can work her way up to Riften. This leads me to believe that she's going to try to develop the region of Hjaalmarch as much as possible in order to show off her leadership skills, which will likely cause her to rush through things faster than they should be, which could result in some unfortunate accidents as they begin developing these fishing villages. For example, someone could try to build a fishing village on top of a previously unknown ancient Nordic tomb, not realizing what it is, only to learn the hard way as they discover Draugr trying to cave in their skull as they try to expand their basement into said tomb. Moreover, I suspect due to her background at Stone Hills as the leader of a mining town, she's going to focus more on building more mining towns along the southern and eastern edges of the hold, rather than trying to expand the fishing villages in its core that would inevitably start to develop. Meanwhile, I suspect Jarl Ingrod would be more methodical in her approach and focus more on the fishing villages. After all, the mining towns, while economically valuable, would only be truly useful to someone who is trying to improve their standing with individuals who care about GDP numbers and the like, while the fishing villages would be more useful to someone who's interested in the health and well-being of the local populace, since that would directly contribute to the food supply. But overall, Morthal in the province of Hjaalmarch is unlikely to see any major changes, at least on a day-to-day level, so while the local innkeepers will likely be ecstatic at having a customer base once again after the game concludes, I don't think anyone else is really going to notice or care about the difference that much in the hold. Outside the hold, however, that's another story. This is because the major cities are going to notice a slight decline in the cost of food, since suddenly one of the holds that was effectively contributing nothing to the economy is suddenly supplying them with a lot of fish to eat. I doubt it would ever be enough for them to consider the province of Hjaalmarch a breadbasket by any stretch of the imagination, but it would help secure low food costs throughout the province of Skyrim at the very least. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments, like the video if you did, subscribe if you don't want to miss the next video I upload. I've been Ian, you have been you, and this has been my theory about the future of the province of Hjaalmarch in Skyrim. Thank you for watching.